someone needs to write a book on the history of drag, and I think it should be you. And I thought, I've never done drag. Well, I have, but I always look like one of the ladies from the Far Side cartoons. There's no glamour there whatsoever. But they said, you should do it. And I realized I really was drag hag #1 from the time I was about 4 years old and I was watching TV. And I always tell the story. I saw Herman Munster on Munsters get hit by a bolt of electricity and wake up a cocktail waitress. And so I realized, oh my God, I do love the drag. I do. I love it so much. It's my favorite art form. And so I wrote this book, Drag, Combing Through the Big Wigs of Show Business. And this just came. I ordered this on Amazon because they don't send you a free copy even if you wrote the book. But it is talk about old school. This is the CD version of the book, and it's co-narrated by me and Lady Bunny. And you may have heard of her. She's still with us, even though she's just a naughty girl. She just released Sissy That Cough is her latest. And well, it's very funny, and you'll see. But anyway, we co-narrated this book. So if you're ever in the car again for any reason for 8 hours and 33 minutes, it's us. We're ready for you. So anyway, you can play it at home. You have time, and we all do. I have to say though, even though we do have time on our hands, our guests are beyond generous to donate this time because they don't have to just do. I mean, I take a shower, I shave my face, I shave my head. Boom, we're done. Okay, little aqua velva behind each ear. I'm ready to go. But our showgirls look gorgeous, and they have to really make it happen. And so I thank them for doing it. And I am going to introduce each one of them. And then we're going to get into a very lively hour-long discussion about the art of drag. We're going to go behind the mascara, as they say, and really look at what their careers are like. 3 of the 4 have been on RuPaul's Drag Race. And so we will talk to them about what that experience was like. We'll talk to them about being on Broadway, because one of them's done that. Many of them have done, I think all of them have done television. So we'll talk to them about that. And there's so many other really fun things that we will be able to talk to you about. So anyway, I'm very excited. First, I want to welcome to the show someone who was Miss Continental 2012. She appeared on Hawaii Five-0 in her native Hawaii. And she is now quarantined in Los Angeles, as I am, and my husband, lots of folks are, all of the people in Los Angeles are. Sasha Colby, welcome to our show. Sasha, how are you, darling?
Hi, my love. How are you?
I'm good. You look beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, there you are, big as life. Oh my goodness.
A lot really big.
Welcome. So we have to. Can we share a little bit of a secret that you've been living the Laverne and Shirley lifestyle? Can we tell?
Yes. I think I'm the Laverne of my lovely household. Shall you introduce Shirley?
I'm going to introduce Shirley, and she's not gone by Shirley, I don't think, other than at home.
I might call her Shirls every now and then.
Anyway, she competed on the 2nd season of RuPaul's Drag Race, and then came out as trans on the reunion episode, which was a very big deal, particularly early on in the RuPaul's Drag Race history. She grew up in Georgia, came out at 15, and has done so many amazing things, including VMAs, worked with Lizzo, Christina Aguilera, a certain, I believe, Miss Rivers, I think Joan Rivers as well. We're going to get all the dish from Sonique. Sonique, welcome to our show.
Hello.
Ta-da! Oh my gosh.
Sure.
And the doggy wants to say hello too. The doggy wants to say hello.
The mascot.
That has lovely hair. I love it. Mwah.
Oh, what's the doggy's name?
Gizmo.
Gizmo. Oh, what a cutie.
She's feeling very feminine. We call her Gizmisha.
Okay, I next want to introduce someone who was on the 4th season of RuPaul's Drag Race, has a recurring role of Veronica on the landmark series Pose, has done things like Ugly Betty, Broad City, playing house with my girls Lennon Parham and Jessica St. Clair on SNL, and is looking even more gorgeous than the last time I saw her, which was on a Size Queen panel, which was not as dirty as it sounds, at RuPaul's Drag Race. Please welcome Jiggly Caliente. Jiggly, how are you, gorgeous?
Hi!
You look fantastic. You looked gorgeous then. You've lost weight. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Do you give, is it an unlisted number, or do you say how much you've lost?
So far I've lost 67 pounds. So far.
And
I'm still going. If this quarantine stops, I can go back to my regularly scheduled program and like really like continue back. But snacking is life right now. So
you look sickening, girl.
thank you.
I've got tamale pie waiting to go in the oven, so I'm with you. I'm all ready.
Oh no, I made shepherd's pie. I'm so ready. As soon as this is done, I'm digging out.
I made shepherd's pie the other day.
Right.
I love that.
It was
Now we need to do a drag artiste cookbook now. I've done cookbooks before, but never.
Me and Ginger are working on it. Me and Ginger are working on one. Yeah.
I love it. Hey, let's welcome our final guest for our quorum here. Last time I saw her, she was on stage as Pythio in the Go-Go's musical Head Over Heels. She was the runner-up, the first runner-up on season 9 of RuPaul's Drag Race. She's done Pose, SNL, and at least a 2-episode arc on God Friended Me. And she's originally from Hershey, PA. The delicious Peppermint. Peppermint, welcome to our show.
Where's Peppermint?
Pepper. Oh,
Look at
well.
that.
Peppermint, are you there, darling?
You look great.
We should go. Wait,
She's
Just like
she's
Peppermint
already
is
had-
from Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Hello.
there's wait.
I can hear her.
Peppermint. Wait, there you are. Okay, now we see you.
See me?
There we go.
Yes, we see you.
I think you're frozen, but you're
Let me leave.
So
I'll
that's
be
all
right back.
No, she's moving. There it is. It's
Oh,
moving.
good. All right, I'm relieved to hear that. All right, so everyone always wants to know what people are doing in quarantine other than making and eating shepherd's pie. Sasha, what's the experience been like with you and Sonique as Laverne and Shirley quarantined together?
Well, Shirley moved Shirley moved in like right before, like, what was it,
All of
February?
them. Yeah. No, March.
March?
Beginning of March.
Like right before we got shut down. So we've known each other for about,
5-6 years.
oh gosh. Oh my God.
Well, we've known
We've known of each other, but we've known each other as friends since I moved here to LA, and we became like bosom buddies, of course. But we definitely had to learn how to like be with each other in like a closed in space very quickly, especially with this quarantine. But I feel like we've been really good. Like we haven't.
I'm really chill. I don't. I'm like one of those. I'm like a cactus. I don't need a lot of water, a lot of anything. I'm good.
See, I'm a Leo. I need all the attention, all the sunlight, all the water, all the weed, all the liquor. So I guess we fill each other out great.
Yeah, we balance each other.
That's good,
Cool.
because that's really the thing. And it does feel good to have some. I mean, I with my husband and my dog, so that helps out a lot. That keeps us, we haven't killed each
I
other.
wouldn't have the dog if she didn't come. It's Gizmo's her dog,
And
but I love Gizzy so much.
And I was living alone, actually. I've been living by myself for years and years. So, like, moving in with somebody was new for me. But, like, it all worked out because I didn't have to be alone. And we've kind of
kept each other from, like, going insane during this quarantine. We're, like, talking each other off ledges every 30 minutes, pretty much.
And we decided to turn our apartment into a production studio to film video content during this time. And actually, and I mean, I don't know why I haven't been doing this before, actually.
Okay.
You know?
Oh, I saw that live video. I saw that video.
Wait, the video or the live?
That live stream.
We don't talk about the live.
Oh, no, now I think we need to. Jiggly, what are you referring to?
I don't know.
I think it was
They did a show together and it was epic. I don't know what. I think they snapped and then they had to hold it like, and then the next day they realized, oh shit.
Yeah,
it was so fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know what I mean? It's like when girls have fun, it is so. It's so nice to see girls have fun and it's just be like that, you know.
Yeah.
The fact that they're two gorgeous hot girls, of course.
You better cackle. You better cackle.
See you. I'm gonna see you.
We're not giving things away because I've got a blank wall. You both have backdrops there. When you watch some of these things online, don't you just sort of check out what's on their bookshelves and what knickknacks the celebrities have?
And content judging for sure.
Yeah. I'm like, if you're gonna do a drag show in your living room, put the living room in drag. I don't want to see a coffee table on the side. I don't want to see your wall paneling.
Do a little.
Put everything in drag. Everything needs to be in drag.
The Tuong Fu idea. There's some chiffon on it.
Chiffon, feathers.
I have to say, I was watching Glenn Close doing videos without wearing any makeup, and I thought, this is not the time for no makeup. We need you to dress like Norma Desmond in Sunset
Well, now
Boulevard.
we can wear a lot of makeup because we're like lit and on camera, and people don't have to come up close to us, so we can really wear all the makeup. And I have been wearing all the makeup lately.
Well, Glenn needs it. If you see Glenn when you talk to her, please let her know.
You know
what I have,
I don't go live unless I have like a beat on at least, because no.
Or a good filter bitch.
But what I have done in the past 50 days of quarantine is not wear a heel the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it. My poor feet are so happy right now. My poor feet.
I love that I can wear.
So what's your quarantine experience been like back in Queens?
I am quarantined with a straight man.
Come
I'm
on.
quarantined with my brother. So it is like, I mean, it's great because we're like the two, like Sonique and Sasha saying like we talk each other off the ledge. My brother has been like my sanity throughout this whole thing. And like, I get to like be like his big sister. I get to cook dinner, I get to cook lunch and stuff. Though I realized like the last couple days, my brother showed that he could cook. So I was like, wait, what? I have been cooking for the last like 60 days and you can cook? I was like, this is some bullshit.
It's time to learn stuff.
Like he actually could cook, and it's been so much fun with my brother. Like we play Mortal Kombat against each other. It's fun. I have fun. Yeah. Okay. We haven't killed each other.
But Peppermint, what's your quarantine experience been like? And please don't tell me you're living with Glenn Close and she wants me dead now.
She heard every word and she's on her way to Los Angeles. She's actually outside her house. It's been, I mean, I guess it's been great considering that there's a pandemic and I'm still here. But I'm just alone. I don't have a roommate. So I talk to myself and I've watched everything forwards and backwards on Netflix and on TV. We're here.
Yes. Have you talked to a lot of like people, like your friends, and kept like, because we've been doing like a lot of FaceTimes and like.
Oh yeah, I have daily meetings, keeping in touch with people. We have like daily and weekly like girl time brunches. And so that, I mean, what would we do without these Zoom parties and these? I mean, like it's really the only link to the outside world, especially folks that are living, I guess, in New York City, LA, that are still online.
Yeah. Well, this whole situation has been like a big mirror for us and for America to look and see who we really are. And it's been a blessing and a curse.
True colors are showing for people. Those people who aren't listening to the shutdown and aren't like really like paying attention to the social distancing. I just want all my friends to know I'm watching y'all and I'm making a list. And I'm probably not going to come around when this is all over.
Hashtag Met Gala 2.
Oh, Met Gala 2.
I was going to say, it really is like a time where I feel like we're all letting our guard down, and even as dressed as you want to be, we're still kind of naked because there's no pretense right now. We're just really being ourselves and showing up and being there. And it's amazing to me that, you can shoot a silly little minute and a half thing in your kitchen, showing something you made, and 2,000 people will watch it. It's kind of it's very sweet and very human. And I have to say, for as tough a time as it is for our country and the world, and we're kind of showing, a lot of us are showing our best sides. And it's
for the most part. I think for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of people
Well,
showing their best sides on
There's some
OnlyFans.
people that are questionable because
I've seen all the sides on
there was a
OnlyFans.
part of me in competition that I was just like, really? Like how irresponsible. But I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. We're all wanting to be around each other. We all want to be out at this point, but it's like, give them time to like figure it out so we can actually be back to normal, or at least some kind of normal.
I hear you. But I think it's brought out the urge to lift people's spirits. I mean, so many people are doing drag events and drag brunches. I know Chad and Flip Phone Events, who does this show, they've got Harry Potter brunch coming up. They've got a Mamma Mia brunch coming up. They've done a Prince one. They've done lots of things, and it's kind of really amazing. Now, I want to ask you about your influences and how you got started, and what drag means to you, and what being a trans activist means to you, and lots of things. But first, I always like to ask, who was the first person you ever saw in drag, whether it was a cross-dressing actor like Tom Hanks on Bosom Buddies, or it was a drag queen at a club you were going to, is it sneaking in with a fake ID? Whoever it was, I'm curious to know who that was. Sasha, start us off. Who was the first person in drag you remember?
Okay, so the first, it's weird, the first trans woman I ever knew that I didn't know was trans was my mom's hairdresser. Her name was Tammy, and I never got it. I just was like so drawn to her. But that was kind of the first introduction to like oh, the other side of the spectrum. But the first drag performer I ever saw, I would think I was 17 or 18, and I was in the closet in like dance class, and I was like, oh, I'm not gay. I don't know what that is. And so my friends were like, yeah, you are, and we're gonna go take you to a show. And the first person that came out was actually, I get to call her my good friend now. She's from Hawaii, but she lives in Las Vegas. Her name is Kaina Jacobs, and she's a trans showgirl. And I mean, she's like an Amazon goddess. And I just immediately was like, you can look like that? You sign me up now. Immediately. So that was mine. Like, it was like being trans and drag was kind of just melded together for my.
And what was growing up in Hawaii like? It was, you were on Oahu, weren't you? Big, not the big one, Oahu, right? Yeah.
Yeah, born and raised on Oahu. Hawaiian culture has a lot of trans influence, and a lot of talking about like the third sex. So it was pretty. Everyone knew like an aunt or an uncle who was a trans man or a trans woman, and everybody kind of did drag that couldn't find their way in like secular world, you know. It was very welcoming, I must say. There were a lot of us.
That's really good. That's nice to hear. I feel like we don't hear that story enough, so that it's good to hear that. Sonique, who was the first person you remember seeing?
Okay, so you mentioned the first person you've seen as trans, and the first person.
Or like I saw the first person I ever saw, and then like.
Yeah, the first trans person I ever saw was this queen called Latore Christopher in Albany, Georgia, where I'm from. And I was just so blown away by everything I was looking at. I mean, she was like everything I thought a woman was, but times 10. And I don't know, my brain had never even let me like know that something like, you know, someone can transition to be who they want to be before I seen that. And as far as drag goes, I remember I was with my mom. She cleans houses, and she was cleaning this house, and the TV was on VH1, and I seen RuPaul on TV doing Supermodel.
Yeah.
Supermodel. She was singing Supermodel, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm looking at, but it's so beautiful, and I want to be like that. I want to be fabulous like that. And it's so crazy how like everything came full circle, and basically the first person I seen like that happened to be someone who gave me a wonderful opportunity. So
I was gonna say, there was something about RuPaul even back in those days that attracted a wide audience, and My mother was in her 70s, and she's like, "Can you get me to meet RuPaul? I want to meet RuPaul." And for whatever I didn't, but I couldn't do it. But I did get her the RuPaul calendar one Christmas in the early '90s.
That was very easy on the eyes.
Yeah, she's put together so well.
Yeah,
it's like it's packaged. She's packaged so well, even like from jump, that it was very palatable for the straight world to accept. You know, she was perfectly packaged. I love it.
And she's real old school entertainer. I mean, that's what I mean. So much of Drag Race is so old school in terms of showbiz tropes, you know, which I find, you know, really, really fascinating. Jiggly, who was the first person you remember seeing?
So my first, like, RuPaul was one, but my mom shut off the television on me. So technically she's the first visual drag queen I've ever seen. But like, to fully like actually see a drag queen, it was like the first thing I've ever seen was like on HBO, and it was Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. But as a performer, I snuck in to Crash in New York, and I got my first like queen to ever see was Angela Carrera. I was living. She was super stunning. And then like the one right after her was fucking Candace Kane. So I was like, I was literally like full blown like visual. I was like, I can't. And I told myself as soon as I saw Angela, I want to be her. I was like, I want to grow up to be that beautiful. And I think I'm okay.
You're doing great.
Here, here. So, Peppermint, what about you? Who do you first remember seeing?
I guess the first bad drag that I ever saw was Milton Berle.
Wow.
And then definitely the first queen that I saw that was like working and actually does drag the right way was RuPaul. Yeah, that was definitely the first person, just like a lot of the other girls. 1990, 1991, on MTV or VH1, one of those. And the first trans woman, you know, I don't really know, but the first trans showgirl that I ever met was probably Candace Kane. Yeah, and in 1990.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Something. I'm not worried about it. I look good. 1998, I think, 22 years ago.
Peppermint, when you mentioned Milton Berle, it didn't happen to be that night at the town hall where he was in drag and couldn't get off the stage. He wouldn't leave.
No. I don't know that story.
No, it was at Stonewall 25, so it was about 25, 26 years ago. And he was on, it was a Charles Bush event, and it was like Charles Pierce, Charles Bush, Lip Synca, but Milton Berle came out in a dress, and he wouldn't leave. And so they sent Charles Pierce out to get him and get him off the stage, and it wasn't easy. And B. Arthur was there. That was what everyone remembered.
Oh my God, that is like gay heaven.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I have to say, it was quite something. Now, that theater, Town Hall, was not very far from where you made your historic Broadway debut in the Go-Go's musical, Head Over Heels. How did it come about that you got involved in that, and what was that experience like, Peppermint?
I was on tour, and I got a call from my agent who said, let's have you audition for this. And so I was auditioning while I was on tour, sending in tapes and everything. And so I had several rounds of callbacks, and then they finally were like, we want you to come to New York. I was in Europe, and they wanted me to come to New York for the thing. And it was like, the tour was about to end in a couple of days. They're like, no, come today. And so like, I was already dressed for the show. I had to get out of drag, go to the airport. I was upset because I was like, if I don't get this, somebody's gonna get hurt. But I went and I did the final callback, sang for them, the producers, director, and everyone, all the big creatives, and I got it. I auditioned just like everyone else. There's a few other folks that we know from the Drag Race family that also auditioned for the role. And
Who?
I won't say
I'm being
who.
messy. I'm just being messy. I'm sorry.
My only point was that it wasn't gifted to me. Like, I actually had to audition. Yeah. And so I left and went and got a Jamba Juice with my assistant, and I got the call like literally half an hour after leaving the audition. And that was great. So that's how I got into it.
I think that's the biggest misconception with all the Ru girls is like, as soon as we get out of the Drag Race, it's like everything is handed to us. They don't realize that we audition for all these things that we're doing that is outside of the Drag Race world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I always hear that they say that, you know, it might get you, having appeared on Drag Race might get you a foot in the door, but you're not going to stay in there or book the gig if you're not bringing it. I mean, that's what everyone has always said. How did the phone call from the Broadway callback compare to finding out you were going to do Drag Race, Peppermint?
Well, the Drag Race was from people that I didn't know. It was actually from Mandy, who from one of the directors, and so someone who I didn't know personally at that moment, but someone who was working on the show called me and said, we want you to be on the show. And I answered the phone and was like, because I had just been talking to a girlfriend of mine and we got disconnected. And then the phone rang. So I picked it up expecting it to be my girlfriend. And it was her, Mandy, telling me that I got on the show. And I was like super shocked. And I was in a little bit of disbelief. And then I screamed and probably did the same exact series of events that everyone else does after they find out that they're on Drag Race. And for finding out that I was on Head Over Heels, I found out from my agent who called me and said, they want you. And then we started like negotiating right away. So it wasn't like the prettiest conversation.
Good. As long as you got someone in your corner negotiating for you, that's exactly what we like to hear. Always, you know, ask for more money. That's always the way to do it. Oh, speaking of asking for money, wait a minute. I want to tell folks, if you would like to, you could Venmo a virtual cover. We suggest $10, but we know what the times are tough, so do whatever you can do. And if you Venmo it to Big Wigs Live, we will share it with the gorgeous cast that you've seen before you. So the cast and crew of Big Wigs Live will get a little something, something, and be some grocery money. And we'll be delighted if you would, in fact, do that, and we would appreciate it. So we'll do that. So I got to ask, Jiggly, when you got the call that you were going to do Drag Race, what was that like?
Okay, so the funny story is, before I was doing Drag Race, I was doing sex work. And when they called me, I was with a client, and I told them I would call them right back. So an hour passes by, and then I called them, and I was like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh, shit. I wasn't ready for it, because I really thought I wasn't going to get on Drag Race. The whole time that I was doing this audition process, I was like, they're not interested, whatever, I don't care. I'm like, I'm sure they're calling everybody, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, it took, like, after 2 weeks, I was like, yeah, you're in. And I was like, fuck. I really got in. Yeah, but it was that traumatic. I was like, can I call you back? They're like, okay. I was like, yeah. It was like, as soon as I got rid of the client, left, and I was like, okay, now we can talk. And then
it wasn't
like a reaction. They called me on Skype. They were like, well, can you Skype? I was like, okay, give me a second. So I was like, I just took a shower because I was like, it was a mess. So I had to go take a shower and then call them on Skype. And that's what people saw on the reaction thing. Because I was like, I'm busy.
So you had the glow, right? You went from
I was glowing, right?
Glow.
She had the money, honey.
I did. Well, I mean, it helped because I had to get all that money together to go compete on Drag Race.
And this is the life. This is the life that the girls have to do, you know?
And I didn't have a regular job at the moment. So it was like, that was my job. and drag.
What do they say? A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
And I definitely was that kind of girl.
We're judgy about shoes. We're not judgy about work. So
we're not judgy about how you get them shoes.
Exactly. Now, Sonique, you were on season 2. What was that? I mean, was Drag Race as much of a? It wasn't as much of a thing, I don't think. But what was it like, and what did that call mean to you?
Well, for me, I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I had been performing as in drag for probably about 4 years. And I mean, I just knew that there was something more for me than just what Atlanta had to offer, because I'm originally from a small town in Albany, Georgia. And I feel like I just had like the odds against me, like since day one. And I managed to get to, Atlanta at the age of like 17. And then I heard, and you know, RuPaul is like everything to me. I've never been like a pageant queen. I tried to do them, it's just not my thing. And Duran Casting was going around trying to find talent for this new RuPaul show that they wanted to do. That was a competition. I was like, oh my God, that would be perfect for me, because I don't want to do pageants to compete. It would be nice to be able to do acting and modeling and that sort of thing, kind of fall in the footsteps of like what RuPaul was doing. She was like the only one at the time doing that.
So has season 1 aired yet when you auditioned?
No, they were looking for people for season 1. And I actually was an alternate for season 1. And also, Morty is casting knew that I identified as transgender during season 1 casting, and even when season 2 came around, they knew that, and they were just like, you know, at the time they just want to, I guess, as long as I didn't have anything done to alter my body, if I, you know, they were okay with me at the time. And I thought that was cool. I was like, I was in the early stages of my transition anyway. You know, I had been raised as a little boy my whole life, and I didn't even know what transgender was. So I was also raised as a gay boy, and I fully didn't even really understand that either. So
what made you, how did you realize that you were trans?
I realized I was trans once I realized what trans was.
As soon as
but being in Georgia, there aren't a lot of resources for trans people. So, you know, I was raised by drag queens and you know, trans women, and I don't know, and I found myself somewhere along, you know, there, and you know, I got on season 2, and I knew that whatever was going to come of this, whether it was going to give me more than what I had before. And I just looked at it as an opportunity to help me transition more and to also be creative as a performer.
And Sonique, you mentioned growing up in Georgia. I had read online that were you sent off to military school to sort of butch it up?
Yeah, so my mom took me out of school when I was in 10th grade, and she wanted me to get a GED at least. And there was a program called Youth Challenge, and it was military school. I wasn't a bad kid at all. I was just a misunderstood child, and no one knew what to do with me because, you know, I mean, I didn't even know what to do with me. I didn't understand who I was or why I was. Anyway, she sent me to this school, and I got kicked out of it about halfway in. I am grateful for the opportunity to go there because it did teach me to defend myself. And that was one thing that's kind of scary. Is knowing you're going to have to grow up and knowing that at some point you're going to have to defend yourself at some point, especially when you're a queer child growing up. You're always, you know, looking behind your shoulder sometimes, because once people know your secret, then you become a target. And I was like a target my whole life. So it taught me to like to defend myself physically, verbally, mentally, and it prepared me for the future in a lot of ways. I know that's not really what they were trying to do for me there. It was more like the opposite. I was there with a whole bunch of like bad kids that it was their last resort before like jail or something. And I was just like this just queer kid that was misunderstood, that got thrown in the lion pit basically, and I survived. I got my GED afterwards, and I moved to Atlanta and never looked back.
It's very inspiring, I have to say. You know, we're all getting a little mushy listening to it, to be honest with you. Getting a little moist in the eyes here.
And there's stories, a lot of kids' stories. You know, a lot of kids have her story, and it's something nice to hear. You know.
Yeah, I think you know, too, when I came out on Drag Race about being, what's happening?
Oh, we're good.
Are we good? Yeah, I talked about it during my interviews, but I guess it really wasn't what they wanted to show on the show. But the fact that they let me talk about it during the reunion was such a breath of fresh air. Not only it was good for me, because to say it out loud to everyone, even though I was still scared and I was still kind of confused about everything, because I don't know everything. Just because you're transgender doesn't mean that you know all the answers. You still have to learn and discover who you are. And even to this day, I'm still changing and growing, and I'm learning things about myself that I thought were me, that I thought was me back then. But then I'm learning that, like, no, like, I can't listen to all the voices, or everyone's journey is different. You have to listen to your heart. And so, yeah.
But I speak for the audience, and whether they're trans or not, by being public people and taking us on the journey with you, we're watching and learning and opening our minds and hearts and realizing how similar we all are, even if our life experience is very different. And I applaud you all for taking us with you, you know, on all of this, and then on top of that, giving us a hell of a show when you perform. So thanks for that as well. Jiggly, you were on a couple seasons later. Had it changed? Were attitudes about being trans and doing drag different by season 4?
So when I got on, I was also like in the very beginnings of my transition, but I didn't want to use, because I didn't want to be tokenized, so I didn't want to talk about being trans. And for me, my identity and Bianca is mine. And I felt like if I'm going to give them Jiggly, you can get Jiggly. She's all yours. But Bianca, who I am, is mine. So I didn't want to share that part of me to the world. And I didn't want to, in the event that I could be tokenized or be edited a certain way, I just chose not to speak on my transition. And everybody in the cast knew, because they were like they would throw little jabs at me and Kenya, because we were always dressed in girls' clothes. So they were like, why do you have bra straps in your shirts? And we're like, we're not supposed to be in drag yet. We're like, fuck off. It was just like fun banter inside, but we never actually spoke about it. And I personally just didn't want to share that part of me, because it was so new to me. I didn't know if I could handle how people would scrutinize me, because I knew that it was like judgment was going to come. I just didn't know if I was ready for that at that moment. I was also dealing with so many other things. So it was a lot. It was like a tall order for a brand new transitioning person. So I just couldn't, I was like, well, let me not talk about it. It's better off that way, so that it's safe and I can protect that part of me as best as I could. And it lasted for about 2 years, until the fans just kept digging and digging and digging. I'm like, dude, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. So if I look like a girl, clearly, because I'm a girl, they're like, why are you always a duck? Yes, I am a duck. I quack. I I mean, I feel like in hindsight, I kind of wish I did talk about it because of what I know now. I just don't think I was ready at the time to speak about it. And that's why I kept so much of my transition a secret. And, you know, Peppermint has known me way before I even got on Drag Race. So she knew I was already living as a girl. And then I get on Drag Race looking like what I look like. Ah!
Well,
Which now I kind of wish I did just show up as me, because I'm like, I hate those videos now.
You know what's so crazy? Like with the Drag Race, like I notice us as trans women, we feel like we have to prove like that we're out of drag so much, but like the boys, they are like full B women's clothes in their interviews, and
them brows are done, honey.
and it's okay for them. And I'm like, why am I over here trying to convince?
Half of them have surgery. Half of them have body modification.
We're talking about body
Oh.
modification. We
body
have
work
less
done,
than a lot of the other girls
face
out there.
work done, but because
Well, like all of us, you know, like a lot of the boy queens that identify as boy queens, like they've had a lot of stuff.
they're a name
done.
change away from me.
They're one good lash away, honey.
I remember that because they were very like, you know, we want the contrast of you out of drag and in drag and stuff like that. And
Then amp your drag up. Then be a girl and amp your drag up. And be like, I've seen like Erica Andrews and Mimi Mars, which they have looked like women and then look like goddesses. You know, and that's we get to do that.
Yeah.
So show America that.
I don't think trans women should be drag queens. I think we should be drag goddesses. You know, I like the sound of that way better.
That's why I was saying artist or artiste, because it does seem to work better. But goddess, I think, let's go with that. Peppermint, by season 9, what was the attitude about being a trans person? Was it different on Drag Race by season 9?
Well, my experience was definitely different than these ladies have talked about. I didn't have any sort of pre-conversation with the producers before we started taping. I came out and started my medical transition in 2012. And so to people who knew me, which is really just whoever I met in New York, they knew that I was trans, but I didn't really, of course, I hadn't really been on a broadcast. Until 2016, I did talk about being trans nationally on The Daily Show in 2016 when I appeared on there. And so in 2017, when I got cast on Drag Race, at the end of 2016, when I got cast on Drag Race and then it aired, right before it aired, we went to go and film our promotional videos. And before the show, like, I was just afraid that I was going to hear at the filming and at the taping of Drag Race, I was afraid that I would hear what I was hearing in New York City, is that people would say, oh, if you're trans, you can't be a drag queen. And so no fair, you had surgery and it's not fair because these guys who are not trans, whatever, even though I think they're definitely gender nonconforming, they don't have surgery. So if you're trans, then you're cheating. And so that was kind of what I took with me into when I was packing my bags. I was packing all that stuff with me. And then when I got there, of course, I didn't know anyone. And so I just wanted to be like, look, no matter what, trans or not, the elimination is going to be around your drag. And so let me like show the campiest, most draggedy drag that I can that looks good, for me, that works for me. And so that's really what I'm
drag.
I like the draggedy drag.
Well, I mean, look, it's no secret that, I mean, especially, I don't use these words, but when 3, 4, 5 years ago, you were in a category of your drag. You weren't just drag. You were either fishy, you were campy, you were whatever. And so I didn't want them to say, oh, you're just trying to look real. I just didn't want that. I wanted to really compete with my drag, whatever that meant. And so that's what I tried to do. I was afraid that the other queens were gonna kind of chastise me or tell me that it wasn't fair. And so I just wanted to wait until it was comfortable to come out, which is what I think you would do in any situation.
Yeah.
And so I waited probably a few episodes, like 2 or 3 episodes, until the other queens started having really nuanced conversation about gender, and it showed that they were very open-minded. And so then I knew then this is a comfortable place for me to come out to these queens. I wasn't really aware of what the producers knew or didn't know. I hadn't really talked to them very much. Obviously, they do background checks on us. I know they're looking at our Instagram and our Facebook and our social media. They know who we are. But I never had any conversation with them about what to wear, what to present, what not to, what to say. I brought what I brought. Some of that was great stuff. Some of that was not so great stuff. And I had to just use it and do the best I could when I was there. And so when we were filming our promos, which our season filmed the promotional, like the commercials and everything, at the end of when we were finished filming. Some other seasons shoot them during or before, whatever, depending on the timing that they have. So when we were shooting our promos, that's when they had said, look, you know, you had a great journey on the show. We want you to really honor that and talk about whatever you want, you know? And so that's when I, you know, just, that was the only time that we had ever had a conversation about it. And that they like participated. Later on, I did talk to one of the producers, rest in peace, Jacqueline Wilson, who was like, oh, bitch, we knew. And she was like, we weren't gonna like drag it out of you, no pun intended. She's like, we just have to wait, it's reality TV. You just have to wait and talk about it when you're ready to talk about it. And so that was the situation. Of course, even after all of that, it was quite, I wasn't really ready for how, I was not prepared either way, how the fans were going to react. There's certainly been so many trans queens who are trans on Drag Race, but the conversation hasn't really changed and moved as much as it should in 9, 10, 11, 12 seasons. And so I was really hoping to be able to do some of that. And I think I've contributed a little bit.
I think you did. I think everyone I'm talking to here has contributed to that, definitely. Can I ask you, are we finally moving into a time where, to use a hashtag, all drag is valid? That you can be a drag, that, basically, as I always say, it doesn't matter who you are off stage. It's just that when that curtain opens, something fabulous better come out and better be entertaining. Yeah. Have we moved into that era, you think, finally?
I think so. For me, I just think I can show you better than I can tell you. And I just think I don't need a hashtag for that. You can, I mean, come to one of my shows. You will feel something, you know, like I think trans people add something a little special to the shows. I don't like going to a drag show and everyone is in a spangled leotard doing a death drop. I get bored. If I've seen it once, I've seen it a million times. I want to see variety in the show. I want to see a variety. I don't want to see all trans queens in one show. If it's a drag show, I want to see. What happened? I wasn't like pointing out anybody. I just mean anything.
I know.
Whether it's all ballads or dance.
I know, but it's just so funny. It was just
y'all thought of somebody that y'all know.
Well, I mean, too, I'm maturing, and I'm not trying to throw my body on the floor to prove that I'm in the show. You know what I mean? I know.
Yeah, you say that, but every time, here comes the backflip into the split.
Hey, I do it when I want to do it. I don't do it because they want to see it.
I know, but
I want to do it.
Kylie, you're always like before every show that I've done with her, she's like, she was like, oh my God, my body hurts. I'm not doing it. 5 seconds later, that bitch is on stage, backflip split.
When the crowd starts going, all that's gonna go. You're gonna be fine, girl.
I love performing. I don't call it drag, call it whatever you want to, bitch. Pay me, I will show up, whatever you need, I'll sing, I'll dance, I'll cartwheel, I will do a ballad, I'll model, whatever.
But as far as like opening the conversation, I think a lot of people forget that there's so many drag kings in the industry, and there's so many cisgender women that are like bio queens. I know Miss Malice is a great friend of mine, Wendy Ho, a good friend of mine, Blue from Orlando. They're all amazing biological females that just love art. And really what it comes down to is that drag is an art form. It's not a sexual identity at all. Like I would work at McDonald's and still be a woman. But I'm going to do drag because I have something that is inside me, that is in all of us, that we need to get it out. And thank goodness you guys get to watch us, but we're going to do it no matter what. You know, like we are performers at heart, and we're always been women in this life. You know, I don't know about all the other lives we've had, but in this life, we're supposed to live. I think I'm supposed to live the life of a trans woman. In this life, I'm supposed to learn a lesson and teach a bunch of lessons to people. And I think that's what we're all end up doing with this. And drag is such an amazing platform to do it, especially now that it's like a thing.
Yeah.
It's like a thing.
Yeah. It's and thank heaven for people who write drag books that it's a thing and that the book came out exactly the right time. So hooray for that. But I was going to say, you know, we're really talking about entertaining. And I think that in this time of quarantine, showing up for a show like this, doing digital drag brunches and for, you know, all the stuff that drag queens are doing, drag performers of all stripes are doing, it really comes out of that need to make people feel better, to make those lighten the loads of those people in the audience. And I commend all of you for doing that, because that's how you end up on Drag Race or Pose or winning Miss Continental or being on Broadway. And it's really to connect with the audience and make them feel better for 2 hours, for 15 minutes, for however long they're with you, and really lift them up. And I think that you really all need to be commended for doing that, because you're rising to the occasion now, and at a time when people need to be cheered up, you're showing up looking gorgeous, and you can't ask for, you know, for more than that.
Ourselves up. We get to be filled by doing drag, and people get to be filled by watching our drag. So it's a great cycle if you know how to use it, you know.
And you know what?
And one thing I think a lot of people don't realize, for me, growing up in this drag world, I originally started to do pageantry. And Sasha Colby.
That was the only way. That was the only thing.
But you, like, there was a video that Sahara showed me, and it was your continental talent of you is like sleeping like Snow White with the mirrors, the two dancers. I was so I was just like, oh my God, you could do that at Continental?
You never.
It was always all these like. It was all these like there's like the 4 dancers, like the 15 whatever dancers with the fucking feathers, but then here you come out and like is this like punk rock, edgy, just sexy, and then just the choreography of your number alone, I was just like, wait, you could do that in pageantry? And for me it helped change the trajectory of what pageantry was like and pageant talents were like for me. So
and it's really for life.
It was a huge like inspiration. And then like me coming in New York City, and like one of my first paid gigs was literally with Peppermint. And Milan hired us to do the thick girl version of Kill Bill. And Peppermint was what was Vivica Fox's character's name?
Black Mamba. No.
She was, I don't know, but when I tell you, Peppermint was like one of the first people I met that was like working in New York City, and like the group of girls that I met that day and that rehearsal was like Layla and Pep, and they were super sweet. Fast forward into a couple years, and they are amazing trans women as well. So it's like to see them and grow and evolve and just be and stay so sweet, because Peppermint really, her name matches her her personality. She's sweet. She's not.
I'll give you cavities, bitch.
Yeah, I've never, for as long as I've known Peppermint, ever heard Peppermint say anything shady. Even when you try to pull something shady out of her, she doesn't. Like, I'm like, really? Come on, just get messy for one moment with me.
And tonight we're going to change that. Peppermint is going to throw shade at everyone.
Is this an intervention?
See, I thought Kylie was originally super sweet. And then when I get around, I bring out I get some shady shit out of Kylie.
Military school girl.
I'm just good at instigating shit. So.
Good. Well, I was gonna say before we run out of time, there's some things I'm just itching to find out. Just a few little quick things before Peppermint and Jiggly, you've both done Saturday Night Live. Is that all that in a bag of chips? Is it everything you wanted it to be?
When that phone call happened and they're like, hey, there's this thing going, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I honestly just didn't think it was. I'm the kind of person that I don't think things are gonna happen. I don't like to hold on to it, because if I hold on to it and I get excited and then it goes away, I'm like, no. But we were just like overnight. They're like, send us pictures, send us this. We didn't really know what we were doing till we got there. So that was really cool. And they were super nice to us. And I got to meet one of my brother's favorite actors, Steve Carell. So I was like, hey, I'm good. And
Peppermint, what was your experience like?
Pretty much the same. I had no idea. Watching it back now, it obviously makes total sense, but it's not even the kind of thing that you can explain. Like the skit, you can't even explain it, like if you hadn't seen it. So for everybody that is watching, please go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's called GPS. It's just a very queer GPS car navigation system. And so we were inside of the GPS system, and so I didn't understand what that meant. Like, were we going to be on a green screen? Like what? And so I just didn't understand. But so I was super on edge and I was a little bitchy that day because I didn't know until I knew what was happening. And then once we got there, we were greeted by Steve Carell and Cecily Strong, who is such a sweetheart. The entire cast and crew, everyone was super sweet. They invited us to the show to watch. And so we were the first Drag Race girls to be featured on whatever the show is on Saturday Night Live. And so it was amazing. It was a great experience.
I was gonna say, and he's a sweetheart. We worked together at the Daily Show for years, and Steve really is the nicest person on the earth. He's a doll face and stuff. But it's important, and also when Rue hosted SNL, it's like it doesn't have to be your favorite episode ever, but a drag queen hosted Saturday Night Live in America. Okay, things are changing. That's especially with all that's going on in the world.
Really good. It was really good.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
Well, it spoke to us as queer folk. We were like, oh, I get the joke. It was a lot of things.
It felt like some of the jokes were for us and not for everybody else. And then I was like, oh, you guys get no way they're going to do those.
You get to be the one that's asking and Googling what that means.
Yeah.
RuPaul has been doing this forever, and this is her first time being on SNL, and you guys were on there before she was.
Yeah, but she was hosting, girl.
But can we remember the time, bringing it back around, can we remember the time where she was on VH1, the awards, or she was on some award show with Milton Berle?
Oh, yes.
MTV, the VMAs.
The VMAs.
That was epic. That was the first lip sync.
That was shade, and I thought someone was going to
all the tea, all the shade. That was literally it spilled all over the floor. It was incredible. Incredible.
And Sonique, you did the VMAs with Miley, yes?
Yeah, Jiggly did too. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it when I got the call to do it.
We were Team A, so that's all that mattered. We were Team A.
No, I was no, bitch. You was Team A. I was Team B.
What is A and B? What does that mean?
They let everybody do the choreography, and they said, "Okay, we're gonna give you a letter. You're A, you're B, whatever." So if you could dance, they did A. If you,
if you could not on B.
But apparently, I didn't make the cut.
And then you flip, and then you're fine.
I flipped, and I had my airtime, and
it don't matter.
It don't matter what you group you in. If you slip,
and Miley's still my homegirl, so I mean, I won.
And you worked with Lizzo, right? And you worked with Christina Aguilera. It's Yeah, amazing to hear all. Now, Sasha, you did you did Hawaii 5-0 in your native Hawaii, didn't you?
I have. That was an amazing. It was a really cool gig. I've been doing the audition thing here in LA. That's like my dream to be here. And I actually I didn't even get the audition call for the role that I eventually did. It was actually given to me by a good friend of ours, Cassandra James. She's been on, I believe, Young and the Rest, General Hospital. General Hospital. The first trans woman on General Hospital. She's an amazing girl from Canada, and she said that this came by her and was like, it says like a Hawaiian like trans girl, and I feel weird acting Hawaiian when I'm not. So I told them that like I should give it to you, and I was like, for real? Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially in LA.
I mean, a girl giving up a gig. Can we shout out to Cassandra James for a girl giving up a gig?
That's
for
a
real.
Canadian.
It is. She wants, yeah.
No, she's really sweet. Like, she's sweet.
But I ended up like that day. This is even like a crazier thing. I ended up auditioning. I got the call from Cassandra when I was going to Hawaii from LA, and she's like, can you go to Studio City? I'm like, no, I'm actually going to Hawaii. They're like, oh, can you do the Hawaii audition? I was like, yeah, of course. The person that is doing the auditions is a good friend of mine and like part of like my drag family in Hawaii. So I was like, oh, bro, I'm like doing the audition. And he was like, oh, okay, perfect. So that just kind of worked out synchronistically. It's a word. But then doing the audition, her agent, Cassandra's agent, ended up having to sign me because you can't be on network television unless you're signed by an agent. So he ended up signing me, and I ended up having an agent, which was great. And I got a lot of opportunities auditioning for a lot of cool things. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that's about to come out in like the next year.
And you've got your SAG card now, I assume, right?
Dues are, yeah, paid the dues.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah.
That they wanted $112 last week again. They did.
Think,
yes.
Yeah, they're still charging during this pandemic. It's crazy.
Artists are hungry.
Well,
I don't care about these residual checks.
Speaking of that, we want to tell you guys, you can Venmo your virtual cover to Big Wigs Live, and we will split it with the girls and the cast and crew here, and we'll be most grateful. We suggest $10, but honestly, because of the climate, do what you can, okay? So if you can, Venmo to Big Wigs Live, and we will be most appreciative. As we wind down the show, 2 more questions, and then we're out of here. Jiggly, talk about doing Pose and recurring as Veronica.
Pose was a lot of fun, and I was glad that I got to audition as me instead of as Jiggly. So that was really great. And when they said that they were looking for a Latinx or Asian girl for this specific role, I told my agent, I was like, okay, I'm down, whatever. And I was like, but do not put in Jiggly. And I've always said that, like, I always told my agents when it comes to acting, I want my name to be the one on the bill, not Jiggly. Unless they're specifically looking for drag queens and like that, yeah. But if it's for any role, I just want it to be me, because I want to give the credit to me, not the Megazord that is Jiggly. So. And they're super sweet. Like all the women on that show, I've known Dominique for so long because we used to work at Crash and Escolito together. So it was like, it was nice to kind of—
Kyra Allure.
Yeah, Kyra Allure. And then like, I met Angelica when I was doing a play at Yale University where her and Jen were doing what was it?
The web series?
They were doing a talk and a workshop, and I just got by chance, because I was doing the play, they invited me if I wanted to come and sit down and be there with them. And I did, and I got to meet Angelica, and it was amazing. She was super sweet. So yeah, like everything kind of like led up to being on Pose, and getting that role was a lot of fun. It was, I mean, yeah. I feel like we talk about so much and that are so important, that are still so prevalent, that's happening today. Mainly with the episode of Candy's death, it was like, you know, back then they didn't even really, didn't even investigate. At least now there's somewhat trying to investigate, and there's somewhat more of a voice to when any of our sisters or brothers happen to get hurt or are murdered by people. And it's just, it's crazy, but it's still happening. And at least now we're getting some kind of like, you know, voices out there for people to hear that this is still happening to this day, and it shouldn't be.
I was going to say the show is revolutionary in so many ways, not only for dealing with issues like that, but I think when there was the beach episode and nothing bad happened, everybody was happy in that episode. I thought that was very revolutionary because it really was showing people that you could have a happy, not even ending, middle. You could, that happy, could be a whole episode of happy. And I thought, we don't get to see that on television. It's always, you know, who's the first one in the body bag in the beginning of SVU? You know, it's so much, it was very exciting to see that. And I think that was really
actually, that's why I'm so happy that there's shows like Pose, because it shows that trans women aren't just dead bodies on SVU or any, like, you know, crime show. It's like, we're more than that. We're not just like I'm really glad that there's shows like that. And even Peppermint's story in her episode of Pose, it was like it's so important. And these are stories that are still happening, and it's just crazy. And thankfully, we all in this community, we can make our own families. And that's why like Pose is so beautiful too, because it shows that like in this little like marginalized community, there's still families being made and friendships that last lifetimes, because it's just that's just how we are. We're survivalists and we adapt, and we're strong individuals.
Hear to that. And also, when you hear the number of trans people employed behind the scenes on the show, I don't think people know that, but it's kind of amazing what's going on, and their arts are in the right place in front of and behind the camera.
And Lady J and Janet Mock writing and then directing too. It's great. But it is kind of like, I will say, like being directed by Janet Mock is kind of intimidating. I'm like, oh,
another Hawaiian girl, yay.
Yes. So it was like, I'm like, oh my God, she means business. Or like, oh, no more playtime.
And she just did Hollywood with Ryan Murphy, which was incredible.
She like executive produced, directed, written.
Yeah. Hollywood was amazing.
Amazing.
Things really are changing. I mean, Hollywood was kind of a fairy tale in its telling, and yet it's inspiring to see that. And then when you see the names,
it was nice.
It's pretty great.
I was waiting for the Ryan Murphy twist, like someone to get like chopped or like, you know, like something weird to happen, but it was really just a lovely story. Yeah. What could be if we lived in that world, like a world that was like accepting.
Now, Peppermint, I've got to ask you, and I know we talked a little bit about it before. What the heck does it feel like to have been a groundbreaker on Broadway? I want to end with that because I think that's just such a monumental achievement in Head Over Heels, the Go-Go's musical. And also, what was doing 8 shows a week like?
Well, you know, doing the show just in general, it was I had a lot of mixed emotions because I was entering into a space, I was leaving like this drag world and going into this Broadway world where even though I went to college and studied musical theater, so I felt like I was trained for this, I didn't really know the community that well. And so I felt like an outsider in the beginning. You know, I didn't know what I was getting into. I was very nervous and everything, but everyone was very open and warm and loving, and just brought me right in. And so it felt really good. There were some lessons to be learned, as there always are on everyone's account. And so it was interesting that we were doing this Head Over Heels, for those that don't know, is just a really queer show. It deals with body positivity, it deals with race, gender, sexuality, all these different things, the patriarchy, feminism. And so doing a show like that was so kind of, for lack of a better word, woke, it was really interesting to be able to kind of be involved. And we were the first people that ever did it. Like it really, it hadn't been on Broadway before. And we were constantly changing and rewriting and workshopping different things, and teaching the director and the writer about what might be appropriate when you're talking to or about a trans person or a non-binary person was just like mind-blowing to me, in a good way. And so it showed that everyone has something to learn, kind of like what Kylie was saying earlier. And so, but it was a wonderful family. They were so great, so accepting, and it really allowed me to, I think the best thing that happened was a conversation that took place after our opening night reviews. The New York Times reviewed and misgendered my character, and they weren't ready. I think that they are used to the Broadway fans and how they react to those reviews, but I don't know that they were ready for the Drag Race fans to come swooping in, and they certainly did. And so that felt good to have that support, and we were able to kind of set things right. There was an apology issued, and then from that moment on, it was kind of a teaching experience for all of us. Doing 8 shows a week, it was rough, your body gets used to it, but that wasn't even the kicker, because 8 shows in 6 days, you have 1 day off. 8 shows in 6 days was rough, but then when the holiday season hit, 9 shows in 5 days I was ready to tear everyone's hair out.
Yeah, your hair, their hair, everyone's hair. Yes. At that moment. Hey, I want to tell folks, once again, if you can, please Venmo a virtual cover, and we'll share it with the cast and crew here of Big Wigs Live, and Venmo to Big Wigs Live, and we will share it with everyone. And thank you for doing that. I hope you will, Big Wigs Live. I also want to ask that you follow me on social media at Frank DeCaro Show. See, isn't that professional? That you can see I wrote it with a Sharpie on a piece of scrap paper. So, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's an amazing cast. Next time we get together, I want to hear stories from Baton. I want to hear stories from Escuelita, because Lord, it started with a good frisking and ended with a shoe getting kicked off. That's what I always remember about it. I think of a Patti LaBelle number with a shoe go flying. So we always had fun there. But I want to thank Sonique and Sasha Colby, Jiggly Caliente, and Peppermint. Do you want to each tell us what's next? What should we look for?
Yeah, I have a show coming up on June 12th. It's part of New Music Fridays with the Digital Drag Fest. I'm releasing a new EP. It's called A Girl Like Me, Letters to My Lovers. And that'll be available for streaming everywhere coming up soon. Also, on behalf of Jiggly, we talked about Pose. Season 2 of Pose just hit Netflix, so make sure you check it out.
We're getting checks!
Ching, ching, ching. Everybody watch it. And then also the cast of Head Over Heels and I are getting together for a little reunion to sing and raise awareness for Ali Forney Center. And so we're rehearsing right now.
That's great.
And that's going to happen online within the next 2 weeks. So keep your eyes peeled.
And Jiggly, what about you? What's next for you?
What's next for me? And as soon as this pandemic is done, me and Ginger are going to film the 2nd season of our cooking show, Wigs in a Blanket.
Yeah.
And coming soon with my girls, Peppermint and Sonique, we are going to be debuting our show, Translation, with Carmen Carrera on Out TV. Woo!
Sorry.
Sasha, what's next for you?
For me, you can just follow me on Sasha Colby at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm constantly working during this quarantine. Like, there's a lot of live shows that I get to be a part of. So if you want to follow me and just keep in touch and keep happy and keep excited. Also, you can download Quibi, which is the new streaming app. It's like kind of like Hulu and Netflix, but Quibi is like little quick bites of of fun stuffs, and there is a documentary on there called Nightgowns that I get to be a part of with Sasha Velour, and she really brings to life what it is to be a queer artist in this world. And I get to be the trans representative as a trans woman. There's a trans man on there. There is there's all different types of drag, and it's perfect for this quarantine moment. So go check it out on Quibi, Nightgowns.
Fantastic. And Sonique, what about you?
Yeah, I have a couple of things going on right now. I've been writing music for the past 10 years, but within the last year or so, I decided to start releasing it. So I just put out a new music video that I produced.
And it was awesome.
Hey, hater.
Also, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Called Hey Hater. I released another single, I guess,
like last 2 weeks ago,
a couple weeks ago, called 1111, and in February I released a song called Just Thinking. I'm going to do music videos for all of those as well. So check out my music. I'm doing that.
Available on iTunes.
Available anywhere. I don't care. Steal it if you need to.
And as someone that is like listening to her,
she don't steal it. Don't steal it. Yeah.
She doesn't care. She's like, just listen to it. But as someone that lives with her and like is seeing her, I am so like amazed at her artistry and her love for music. So please go check her out, because this is not just like a trans or a drag race like artist. This is someone like showing their feelings and showing their emotions and showing their life, and it's really beautiful.
Laverne, Shirley, you did great. Thank you so much. And again, you can Venmo virtual cover to Big Wigs Live. We would love it if you would do that. Tune in next week. Jackie Beat is going to join us. The inimitable Jackie Beat.
No.
And Raja.
Oh, God.
So we will talk to the two of them and a mystery guest, which will be very fun. And also, thank you to Peppermint, Jiggly Caliente, Sasha Colby, and Sonique. And Chad Campy, thanks for putting us together over at Flip Phone Events. Knock 'em dead with the Harry Potter drag brunch that you're doing, and then so many other things. Look for them on facebook.com/flipphone. Check them out there. And we'll be back here next week with Big Wigs Live. And buy my book, Drag. It's on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. Love you all.